got a spur and it's low, so it gets your plant back down. So we'd want to leave this shoot. So we'll lop that guy off. Make sure not to cut it when you're cutting the rest of the canes. So that one's cleaned up. So this is a low one. We'll spur this guy to get us another 2 shoots, clip that old wood off. And
so now these ones this year are the ones you're gonna pull down to become the
exactly
right.
The canes, not the shoots.
And so this space is not right because when this is put in. It's supposed to be like right here. So we got a sort of a crazy plant, so we'll have to cut this one a little bit shorter. And you see here's the bud. You always want to cut back away from the bud. So if this thing starts bleeding, the sap's going to run away from the bud and not on top of it, because if the sap runs on top of that bud, it's basically useless. It won't break. And then you clean up all the tendrils, so it's easy to. Tendrils are little shoots hanging off, so it's easy to tie. And you cut it.
Do you ever leave an extra cane as a safety or an extra shoot?
And
safety shoot?
yeah, and blocks that are frost prone.
Yeah.
We always leave kickers. So like in Terboss,
yeah.
The experimental on the bottom side here that you guys can see out from the tasting room, we'll leave kicker there because that cold air in frost season will go straight to the bottom.
Because I'll drive around to a lot of wineries and see 3 large canes.
That's called a kicker.
Yeah.
The extra one is called a kicker cane. So what you do if you had a kicker cane, so right here we got another spur. So whoever pruned this last year did a pretty good job. They left a spur right here. They got the plant back down. There's a spur here that brought the plant down. So whoever did this one knew what they're doing and had a really good job of pruning. So it makes it easier the following year. You could just rip through them if they're done right. If they're not done right, then you have a little bit harder time. So let's get this old cane off here. The bigger cuts, you always want to try to use your bigger loppers because you'll get carpal tunnel pretty quickly. And so this one's lower, and with this one being higher, you don't want to spur anything higher than your shoot. So you just take this guy off. He's no good. And then we'll cut this one, and hopefully it matches up the same length right there. So this is actually not a bad cane. It did have fruit on it, but it's coming off of old wood. You want wood. The canes you want to leave is off of 1-year-old wood, which is Spur's 1-year-old, and this is 2-year-old. But you could spur this, and then it'd be good for next year. So we'll, just for that sake, we'll spur that guy. Cut this. Like I said, you're supposed to use your big pruner so you won't mess your hands up. But my hands are already shot anyway, so it doesn't matter.
So another question that is because of where this is positioned, did they really probably shouldn't have put that plant there originally.
They were just trying to maximize space.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So it's not necessarily symmetry to it. I mean,
well, you sort of want to, if you look at it, you sort of want it to be a Y. Okay. That's what you're shooting for. So this is sort of a jacked up looking Y. This is, you know, you got this coming off this way, it's a Y. Once you tie it down, it's definitely going to look like a Y there. So I'll do this one, then whoever wants to try it can go. So you look around, see what you have. This is going off the wrong way, so that's going to be hard to get back over and tie. You could, but you got that big loop, which is sort of difficult for canes. So you'd either pick this guy or this one. Which one would you think would be better?
I'd say the one on the right.
Yep.
Because it looks like it's going the right
direction.
direction.
Yep. What you got to be careful with, if you do one that's coming out the bottom.
Yeah.
So say for example, we wanted to pick, if you didn't have much option, you want to pick this one. When you tie and you push down, it will pull away from here if it's not on very well, and it will just split when you try to tie it. Then you only got one cane. Yeah. So you got to be. You could take this one. I would take this one because it's a little bit lower and you can get some, but this right here is just as good. So let's do the lower one. And you don't have much space, so we'll use hand pruners. It's pretty tight. And I will spur this one because next year we may get a shoot off here that we can tie down, and it's more in line with the wire. And obviously this one right here would be the one you use. It's nice low position. Cut some of this old wood off.
Mike, do you want to talk about the trellising system too? Because, you know, like Lou's not been out in the vineyard before, and everybody else has been on it.
Okay, yeah, so this is what's called a vertical shoot positioning. You have your fruiting wire, this big one right in the center, right here, like I'm plucking like a string. That is called a wind wire. And then you got your top wire, and then the two outside ones, these are catch wires. So as the shoots grow, we move these wires up and down. When we go down further, you can see the hooks on this post. So we can move these wires wherever they need to be according to shoot growth. After we get everything tied down, we'll move these wires right here to the very bottom. And then when the shoots get up to about right here, we'll move this wire up to this nail to hold everything in. When they get up higher, we'll put this nail. Then we start with the top wires then. And that's what holds everything in place. A lot of people are doing away with this middle wind wire because it's just added cost. It doesn't do much of anything besides getting your way when you're pulling brush. Because wire, you know, the fruit comes around each side of it and it's harder to pull brush. Usually most people are just using the top guide wire plus the 4 catch wires. But
Do you prefer one of the, I mean, then why don't you guys get rid of the middle one then?
it'd just be so much waste at this point. If you're designing
From the beginning, you
from
wouldn't
the beginning, yeah,
necessarily
I would not put that wind wire in, because what you could do is before you prune in the winter, when we did, you know, we were looking for stuff to do in December or January, I could just have guys go around the field and you got this wire and, you know, undo the clips and put it up right here, and when you pull the brush, it's like it just comes out pretty easily.
Everything you do is vertical, and everything I see everywhere around is vertical. Is that because of the canopy management, because of the pool and the sun?
Yep, for here we don't have, you get more sun exposure to the fruit
Yeah.
instead of having like a double overhead
Exactly.
or a Scott Henry. A lot of people are doing Pinot Gris on a Scott Henry trellis. So what that is like you'll have a fruiting cane right here, and then you have a trunk coming up again, and you'll have another cane right here on top of it where you got shoots going down and shoots going up, and you double the amount of fruit you can get. And you know, for Pinot Gris, it's not a bad idea because you're looking to get 4.5, 5 tons per acre. Where this way on Pinot Gris, it's pretty tough to get 3.5. You can get 4, but you've got a lot of fruit just in a small area, and it's a more dense microclimate that can cause more disease later on.
I have a question. It's sort of related, maybe not so related, but can you address the the way we started out and the way we've ended with plants per acre and the differences that makes?
Direction maybe of how the plant.
Yeah, plant density.
Yeah.
So this all was planted in '92. So all of our rows in between are 7.5 foot, and that's just for tractor's sake. The narrower you get, the more expensive tractors become. So 7.5 foot. Back in '92, there was not a lot of 6 foot or less than 6 foot tractors, like 4 foot tractors. So our tractor's all about 55 inches, about the max we pull in between here. So that's why our spacing through the entire property is 7.5 foot, and these plants are 5 foot in between. And then
And that's 1,200 per acre.
yep, 1162.
1162.
To be exact.
But that varies depending on when we plant it.
Yeah, so the first stuff went in 92 and 93, 95 and 96 were all 7.5 by 5 foot. 97, or no, 90, yeah, 97, it went to the 1 meter by 7.5, and that's 1771. And then after that, the 99 blocks are 4 foot by 7.5, which is 1,452 plants per acre. So it sort of goes from there. And then our Dundee plantings are 6 foot by 3 foot, which is 2,400 plants per acre.
How about the experimental block?
Yeah.
That's 4,840 plants per acre.
So,
So
I
it's
mean,
a meter by meter.
Wow.
What's the rhyme and reason behind that? Is it-
People say more competition
Yeah.
leads to better fruit. Well, you know, it's
but you got less plants, you got less clusters on each plant then too.
right, but you got more plants sucking up more nutrients
Yeah.
closer together. So the management's a little more intense, and I'm not a big fan of saying stressed vines make better wine. If you're stressed, you're not doing your best work. You want to be happy, you know. It's so putting a bunch of plants in together and make them all fight for the same thing. I don't think you're actually coming out with the best fruit. You know, a lot of times it tries to ripen too soon or won't ripen at all, and people are just playing around with it. And you know,
So we don't really know what the exact sweet spot is.
7.5, 8 foot's pretty common. People are going down to 6 because they're just trying to put more plants per acre, then if you put more plants per acre, you can carry more fruit, and then you're farming Pinot at 3.5 tons per acre, pretty easily. You could, with that, this wider spacing, it's sort of hard to do.